Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor. My name is Reverend Drew Moeller. I use he, him pronouns. It is a pleasure to be with you here this morning, and we want to welcome everybody who is here in the sanctuary and everybody who is joining us on Zoom. They might be coming in a little bit late. You may have noticed that things are a little bit different this morning. Our office administrator, Christine, is very sick right now, and we don't have an order of worship, and apparently the link was delayed in getting out to people. So hopefully we've got people joining us by Zoom, and we'll be filtering in as things unfold. I want to extend a special welcome to anyone who is joining us today for the first time, and let you know that a little bit later on in the service, right after the announcements, we'll give you an opportunity, if you so wish, to introduce yourself. John will bring a microphone to you, and you don't have to make a big speech. Just your name and what brings you in this morning is all that you need to share. But I'd just like to give people a little heads up beforehand so we don't catch you off guard. Before we get started, I'm going to invite Lori to come up and offer some announcements.
Good morning. I'm your worship associate today, Lori Cartier. So today is the second Sunday. How many people remembered to bring your food for the food cupboard? Woo! We haven't been making quite as big of a deal out of it, but we still need everybody to bring a bag, or however little that is, bring something along for the food cupboard. It's going to be more and more important as we go along. The pledge right now is at 150,000-ish right in there, but we could use 10,000 more, and I know there are people out there who have not yet pledged. Sue McKay will have a pledge card for you if you'd like to do that today, and you don't need to be a member. You can be a friend and pledge to help us keep the heat on and keep the employees happy for the next year. Justice Now has a couple of announcements. They are going to be having a meeting next week. Sorry, I didn't bring my papers up here. They're going to be having a meeting next week, and they're going to be showing this video called Full Plates, Full Potential. And they are inviting everyone to come and watch it. I guess it's really a fabulous information about ending childhood food insecurity. April 22nd, the Walk for Peace and Friendship is going to be starting at Indian Island. All the information is in the e-news. If anybody wants to carpool from Bangor, I'm going to go for the opening ceremonies. So just see me after. And on April 27th, we have New Member Sunday. So if it's something that you have been thinking about doing and you'd like to become a member of our community, we would welcome you on that day. I think I've got all the announcements. Good. All right. I'll give it back to Reverend Drew.
I also want to announce and let everyone know that on April 26th. Can you hear me? It sounds like my microphone's not as loud. It's coming in good? Okay, you could go up a little bit. Okay. April 26th, we will be having a memorial service for Carrie O'Brien here in the sanctuary at 11 o'clock in the morning. So mark your calendars, and that will be going out in e-news as well. So, as I promised, if there's anyone here who is visiting us today who wants to introduce themselves, now's the time to do that. Just raise your hand and John will bring a microphone to you. Hey. You've got your hands full.
Good morning. I'm Charlie and this is Kristen. And we just moved here to Bangor. I am from Washington. This is Emmett.
Hi.
No, not yet. And so yeah, we're just looking for community, and we haven't come to many UU services yet, but we got to come last week. No, not yours.
and baby Harriet.
Yay, yay, welcome. I know the feeling, yeah. You get that microphone in front of you and you just kind of, There we go.
You're still welcome.
Anyone else wanting to introduce themselves this morning? Okay. So let us just take a moment to pause and prepare ourselves to be here in community and relationship in a place where we're all accepted for who we are. Allow yourself to take a couple deep breaths. Come into this space of support and nurturance. Come into this space where you can be who you are without worrying about what other people think. Find that comfortable place in your pew or your seat or wherever you are at home, and know that everyone is welcome here just as they are. Now we'll have some wonderful introit music from Rissa. Mark McCullough is going to read our chalice lighting today, and the theme of the service is actually chosen by Mark, who was the winner of last year's sermon topic auction. So, Mark.
Good morning. Eleanor is going to be lighting our chalice this morning. Into this home, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will towards justice. And into this home, we bring the courage to walk on after hard losses. Into this home, will you bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings? By our gathering, we bless this place. In a shelter, we know ourselves blessed.
I now invite you to rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn 128, which is up on the board here. The words will appear on the screen, or you can use your hymnal if that is easier. I'd now like to invite our young people of all ages to come forward for our story for all ages. Okay. So this coming week we have tax day. How many people are ready for their taxes? How many people don't want to admit where they are with their taxes? And so this story reminds me a little bit about that, and it's a story that comes from Japan, and it's centers around a wise old judge named Uka the Wise, and he was known and beloved by the community that he served in for always listening to people really thoroughly and trying to find a way of making things work. And he was also had this reputation that he would always hear a case no matter how silly or frivolous it was. So it just so happened that in the town of Edo, that the community realized that they needed to build a new school and an orphanage for kids who didn't have parents. There was a real need in the community for this. And so the community came together and they figured the best way to be able to do this was to create a tax on the people who lived in the town. And they thought about what the fairest way to do this would be, and they decided that what they would do is there would be a tax on the number of windows and doors that you had in your house. The idea being that people who had big, huge homes probably had a little bit more money that they could give, and people who lived in really small homes that just had a door or maybe just a window and a door wouldn't have to give as much because they didn't have as much to give. So everybody in the town thought this was a wonderful idea, except the tea merchant, right? There's always one person, right? The tea merchant said, well, I don't have any kids. Why should I pay for an orphanage or a school? I'm a tea merchant. I employ all sorts of people in the community, and that's my contribution to the community. I shouldn't have to give anymore. I also have a big, huge warehouse, and here's like a picture, and you can see there's a lot of windows and a lot of doors in that warehouse, right? I shouldn't have to pay that much. So the people of the town argued with the merchant and the back and forth, and they couldn't resolve this on their own. So they went to see the judge. And the merchant argued his case about not having to pay taxes. And the people argued their case about how important it was for everybody to contribute. The judge listened, and as he heard the merchant making his case, his head and his face started turning red, which is a sign that he was a little pissed off by the way that this merchant was looking at the grand picture of the community. So the judge thought about it for a while, and he said to the tea merchant, "Are you sure that you don't want to pay any taxes at all?" And he said, "That's exactly right. That is my case." And he said, "Well, I have a solution, but you have to be willing to accept the consequences of that." And the tea merchant was like, "Oh, absolutely. Whatever you say, you're so wise. I'll do whatever you say as long as I don't have to pay taxes." So the judge asked the people in the town to go over to the tea merchant's house, and they boarded up all the windows, and they put a board across the door, and left the tea merchant's warehouse like that. The tea merchant was a little miffed at this. He felt he had kind of been tricked, but he decided, well, I'm going to just roll with this for a little bit. So he got by for a day or two and went out to eat, and all of a sudden a day or two went by and he realized that he wasn't making any money. He was starting to smell bad. He really wanted to get some clean clothes and take a bath, but he couldn't do that. And he struggled and struggled, and finally he realized that the only way he was going to get back into his house was to go back to the judge. And he went back to the judge and he said, "Judge, what if I just take the boards off the door?" And the judge said, "No, you don't want to pay any taxes, so you either pay taxes, all, or you don't pay taxes." And so it is said that the merchant finally, out of necessity, gave in, but over time found that he really enjoyed hanging out with kids, and he actually invited the kids from the orphanage to come and hang out at his tea shop and learn about how he made tea. And they developed this wonderful relationship that lasted for generations and generations and generations. And that's the story of the tea merchant. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, John.
Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Sometimes the grass isn't always greener. The tea isn't always greener on the other side. Yeah, yeah. Do you think that the judge made a wise decision? Yeah? No? Yes, no? I'm hearing yes, no. Oh, you changed your mind. Okay. You're like the tea merchant. Yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, okay. I think that why I like this story is because we often experience people who are kind of like, I don't want to participate, I don't want to be part of this, I don't want to contribute. And part of what we believe is that everybody has something of value to contribute, whether it's to your SE program or to the service or the story of all ages. Just being here and participating makes a really big difference. And so sometimes I know kind of you can be grumpy in the morning and it's hard to get out of bed to go to church and whatnot, but ever thought about your being here is a gift, not just to yourself, but to all of us as well. So with that, I'm going to encourage you to share yourself with your friends downstairs for your SE program. And thank you. Yeah. Dear friends, please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Great Universal Spirit, interconnected web of which we are a part, we gather in this sacred space at this sacred time to hold up the joys and sorrows that are on our hearts and minds as a beloved community. Today we remember loved ones who have passed, especially people who have been great mentors and helped us see the world and ourselves in a different way. We hold those in our community who are ill, infirm, who are struggling, and those in our broader community who are looking for places to be safe and to get out of the elements in this cold and rainy spring. Spirit, we also hold up the joys of, and sorrows, I guess, or concerns of young people who are learning to venture out on their own and get driver's license, and hold those in our thoughts who have experienced accidents and very difficult situations, and pray that there's a way to move forward, especially with plans for future education and opportunities. Spirit, we also hold in our hearts the people of this community who continue to live into their values, whether it be here in the sanctuary or out on the street, responding or connecting with other people around the greater Bangor community, because we are all part of the same beloved family. Spirit, we gather in this time and place because we know each life tells an important story, and each life holds a deep and abiding truth. By coming together in this time and this space, we grow closer to each other, and we grow closer to being one. Blessed be. Amen.
For our offering this morning, today we gather our financial gifts to support this beloved community, and we commit to sharing half of the undesignated proceeds of this collection with Faith Linking in Action, a Bangor area interfaith community alliance that works collaboratively to address root causes of poverty in our community through public education and dialogue with elected officials. FLIA's mission is work together to seek sustainable solutions to these problems and build beloved community. Thank you.
Please rise. It is with gratitude that we receive this morning's offertory to benefit this community and Faith Linking in Action. Thank you.
If I can do this without popping, I don't know why. When I talk into it, it pops. So, Atticus is going to take care of that. Oh, it's got to be. Oh, yes, he's saying it's my sparkly personality. I don't know about that. Anyway, our reading this morning is Nourished and Transformed by the Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson. Spirit of life and love, Spirit that lives within us and between us and among us right now, within this beloved community and in our work for collective liberation, may we continue to weave the web of trust and care to keep our bodies safe. But more than that, may our bodies be the site of healing, joy, and freedom. May we refuse to let our spirits be depleted and hardened by the forces of hate. Instead, may we open ourselves to be nourished and transformed by the movement for justice, knowing that our collective story is not what we are fighting against, but what we are fighting for. For ours is the work of creation. Ours is the work of inviting people into an irresistible movement rooted in our belief that a new world is possible. And the center of our work is love and joy and the spirit of abundance. These are the things we are fighting for, and these are the things we are fighting with. May we know deep in our bones that this is the call of our faith. Amen, and blessed be. And now we have an extra special treat. Linda Kaler is going to sing us. I don't know what's on the screen, but the special music, I think it's called Slingshot, and it just been written. This is its debut.
Yeah, so it's still rising, meaning I just took it out of the oven, and it's still rising. So I don't know what's going to come out. All right. I just want to say, someone in my yoga class gave the analogy of the slingshot. The further back you pull the slingshot, the farther we fly. And that's what made this song start. And I love that image because we're getting pulled way back. Oh, boy, are we gonna fly. Okay. Slingshot. The further you pull us back, the further we'll fly into a future better by design. You've hijacked our country and torn it apart. We'll rebuild with compassion at its heart. You've exposed the ugly cancer of our nation, white supremacy, patriarchy, mortared into our foundation. You're taking down protections from that hate and using your bigotry to dominate. Slingshot, maybe you can sing along. The further back you pull us, the further we'll fly into a future better by design. You've hijacked our country and torn it apart. We'll rebuild with compassion at its heart. Cooperation is how humans have survived. Communities of care supporting all lives, rooted in nature, all life intertwined. This is the way we are meant to thrive. Slingshot. The further back you pull us, the further we'll fly into a future better by design. You've hijacked our country and torn it apart. We'll rebuild with compassion at its heart. When you fail to end democracy, we'll take over and get to work full of glee. We'll build new ways right from the start with justice, equity, and care at the heart. Slingshot. The further back you pull us, the further we'll fly into a future better by design. You've hijacked our country and torn it apart. We'll rebuild with compassion at its heart. Slingshot. You're very kind.
Let's give her another round of applause for one, a wonderful song, and taking the risk of sharing it while it's really raw. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And also wanted to thank Rissa for her gift of music this morning for the service. We are blessed. So the winner of last year's sermon topic at the annual service auction is Mark McCullough, who chose the topic today. He didn't make it easy. He selected for his topic wanted me to talk about a 2024 speech by conservative PBS commentator David Brooks to the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. In his speech titled "How the Elite Rigged Society and Why It's Falling Apart," Brooks outlines his perspective on human history and society as an ongoing process of rupture and repair. He observed that our country is currently experiencing a rupture caused mainly by what he calls educated elite. In his words, the elite culture has caused three significant problems in our society. First, he suggests that we have created a system of meritocracy that functions like a caste system. This system of meritocracy creates a significant disparity between the rich and the poor. To illustrate this, he gives some examples. Children of wealthy parents by age 12 are on average 4 class levels ahead of other children. Kids in wealthy homes are 77 times more likely to go to university, which will set them apart in the rest of their lives as they grow up and enter into that system of meritocracy. He says 54% are more likely of wealthy people are likely to go to elite schools like Harvard, Yale, and Wheaton, where the leaders or future leaders of our country often go. People with only high school educations die on average 9 years sooner than people with college degrees. And people with only a high school diploma are 5 times more likely to have their kids drop out of school and are 2.4 times more likely to say that they have very few or no friends. The problem is that as a nation, we have come to accept these vast discrepancies as egalitarian or usual instead of recognizing them as things that continue to feed our ever-growing divide in our class system. The second significant harm that is in pursuing meritocracy is that we have destroyed our society's sense of moral order. To drive this point home, he quotes the historian George Moran, who says, "What gave Martin Luther King Jr.'s rhetoric its power was that there was a moral order built into the universe that slavery was wrong. Nothing is wrong if segregation is not wrong." Brooks says that we took the essential moral order that holds people together, and we've decided that it's up to the individual to find their own moral truth. At first, this might seem like an argument against allowing people the freedom of thought, but my interpretation of what he's saying here is that he is saying that we've lost a sense of communal understanding of what is good and what leads to the common good. Slowly, the prevailing morality has grown more individualistic and less collective. Instead of a system of shared moral values based on the established norms of religious or spiritual values from our Judeo-Christian teachings, like hospitality and caring for the poor and the disenfranchised, We have become a nation more based on individualistic morality, kind of like that tea merchant who didn't want to pay taxes. Our morality is more based on individual feelings and feelings that serve our personal needs but ignore or downplay our commitment and relationship to each other. He doesn't say this outright, but my interpretation of this is that it also creates a very fertile soil for an ethic of entitlement. Fallout from not having a clear understanding of what it means to be a good person and to live a good life creates societal anxiety that causes a great deal of harm. He talks about how 45% of high school students say that they persistently feel hopeless and despondent. It's our young people. And since 2000, the number of Americans who say that they don't have any close personal friends is up fourfold. And the number of people who place themselves in the lowest happiness categories on surveys is up by 50%. The result, Brooks says, is that we have become a very sad nation. The third thing that the educated elite have done is to produce characters like Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Billionaires. They've become the educated elite, and in his interpretation of the educated elite, they aren't pro-conservative, they are anti-left. They don't have a positive vision of conservative vision of society. They simply want to destroy institutions that the left now dominates. And that means, he says, in the first place, that they are astoundingly incompetent. He says, I have a lot of sympathy for what drove people who voted for Trump, but by replacing experienced civil servants with inexperienced educated elite is a significant problem. He says, for instance, our current Secretary of State gave up all of our bargaining chips with Putin before there were any kind of negotiations that even began. Elon Musk has hired 25-year-olds who are firing at people who control our nuclear codes and then having to scramble to hire them back again, leaving our country in a very vulnerable place. Brooks says that narcissism causes these educated elites to eviscerate every belief system that they touch, as opposed to healthy conservative societies that are built on healthy institutions, a belief in a steady and gradual change, and a belief in a constitutional government and the will of the people and shared moral norms. Our current executive branch's educated elite believe that there are no moral norms. They have eviscerated life-saving programs, but haven't embraced the traditional conservative agenda. Instead, they seem bent on destroying the moral fabric of our Judeo-Christian faith traditions. They're destroying our institutional fabric, leading to instability and the loss of a sense of a common understanding of a shared purpose and process for meaning-making. At the end of his talk, Brooks basically points out that as a nation, we have continued to flow through cycles of rupture and repair. There was rupture when the colonies revolted against England, and we found our way through. There was rupture when there was a greater moral awareness of the evils of slavery in our country, and we responded to that rupture with the Civil War, and then with repair and reconstruction. In the late 1800s, there was a scourge of unbridled industrialism that drove people into the ground, and we responded with a social gospel movement of people and communities coming together to try to lift up their neighbors with health and support. In the 1960s, there was a rupture in our culture with the civil rights movement, which brought about voting rights and desegregation. And we can go on and on. The AIDS epidemic of the 80s, the Black Lives Matter movement of the last 15 years. The point is that as a country, we have experienced many disruptions and repairs in our long history. And we have continued to find ways to overcome those disruptions. And when we come out the other end, we are a better society for the experience. The repair side of the equation has always been about bringing people together as a way to serve our common shared interests over those of the individual. In our current state of disruption, it is easy to see how many decisions are made without a connection to a moral base, and it, as a result, harms many people. It troubles me to think that as we make decisions without being connected to a moral base, or even thinking about what the ramifications of those decisions are, people around the world are literally starving because they have lost access to food, housing, and health care that we have provided them. The basic things that people need to survive. Instead, we have focused on our own needs and ignore the needs of others who rely on us for us to keep our commitments to them. As I reflect on David Brooks' presentation, I try to reflect on it through the lens of our Unitarian Universalist faith, and I am reminded of how important our values continue to be. Whether they make us feel uncomfortable or not, those values are grounded at the heart of much of the Judeo-Christian ethic of morality, generosity, interdependence, equity, justice, pluralism, and transformation, all with love at the center. I am aware that even with our commonly held values, things can be disruptive and messy. I think of the current discussion that we have had about supporting Needlepoint Sanctuary's expanded services to people in the greater Bangor area who are suffering with substance use disorder. Without our values at the center, the conversation that we've had to guide that process and listen to differing opinions would be a real mess, but somehow we're still here, we're still talking to each other, we're still listening. Our shared values guide us, and we continue to be in relationship because we know that we are better together. One of the things that made me wonder in David Brooks's discussion about educated elite is how we, as Unitarian Universalists, fit into that paradigm that he describes. As a denomination, we are one of the highest educated denominations in the country. And I continue to wonder how that affects our thinking and our world view. I know that I have had conversations with members of this congregation who have shared their dis-ease when they heard someone going off about the evils of shopping at Walmart. The person was uncomfortable because their economic situation meant that that was the only way that they could meet their needs. Or conversations about those stupid people who voted for Trump, instead of seeking to understand what the given growing indiscrepancies in our class system may have led to people making, when David outlined some of those things that we talked about earlier, what seems like maybe not such an irrational decision. We have rubbed up against it as we continue to discuss the needlepoint discussion. I think I already said that. But as we engage in that conversation, we have learned something. We have become more aware that there is an unaddressed need for public health and safety of a needle exchange in our community. In our healthy discussions, we have discovered new understanding of what needlepoint does and the need of people in our community for the services that they provide. We have also become aware of what role we might try to serve to address the opioid epidemic in our community, something that most churches have been silent on. The issue of class and elitism is an essential and ongoing conversation for us as Unitarian Universalists. One of the strengths of our community is that we are aware that we have different educational and life experiences that form our way of being. I often wonder if our sense of religious freedom and willingness to be individual seekers of truth and meaning sometimes make our faith maybe not as appealing to other people, because we don't offer a solid prescription on how to live a good life. We offer values, but we don't say, this is how you have to live them. That's up to us. That's the challenge. Some people, I think, need more structure. Generally, I think that we do better job than most religious denominations, and we are not perfect. Just like we are not individually perfect. What keeps us honest and engaged is our commitment to the values that guide us. The important thing at this time of rupture is to keep ourselves centered enough to keep reaching out, to be curious, to try to find ways to build bridges and discover common ground. It is also time to be uncompromising in our belief and our values, which means standing up to the educated elite that seem to be forcing our nation to drift without a rudder. Now is the time to hold our leaders accountable for their mistakes and violations of our nation's held values, our constitutional covenant with all people that speaks for the good of all, we the people, while also protecting individual freedoms that serve the common good. It is hard to accept in this time of disruption that many people are being harmed and continue to be harmed and will still be harmed as we try to move beyond this moment of disruption and to repair. The important thing is to encourage each other to do the best that we can, to support one another in what we are doing, and work for caring for the disenfranchised, and advocating for change that will lead to the greatest good for all people. In this time of rupture, it is easy to forget our values and to let ourselves sink into that place of disrespect. As Michelle Obama would say, to go low. Now is the time for us to double down on our values. As they would go low, we would go high. Oh, I know you care about that more than that. When they go low, there we go. Our power is in living our values and setting the example for those around us of living into a paradigm of treating each other with respect, of allowing there to be difference and curiosity and dialogue without tearing each other down. Blessed be, and amen. Rissa, I think we're ready for a song. All right. Hymn number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Mark for his intriguing suggestion of that David Brooks article, and I think it was really something that helps us see the world from a slightly different perspective. And as we extinguish our Unitarian Universalist chalice flame, let us be reminded that although our time of worship has come to an end, our service to each other and to the world has just begun. Blessed be. I now invite you to join hands and sing our benediction. Take a moment to turn and make everybody attitude.